Okay, welcome back to the channel. Hobby1 Kenobi here. We're going to talk a little bit about this Cyber-Hobby SA-9 kit. As you can see, I've got some of the chassis work done, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of where I'm at so far, and then how I deal with some basic construction issues. So as I talked about in the first video, we're going to go a little bit out of order here on the instructions. For instance, I started with step 5 rather than step 1. 5, then went to 6, then went to 7, and now we're going to jump to step 10. The idea being that I like to get the hull together, so the top and the bottom parts together, as early as possible before I start putting a lot of delicate detail and then have to put them together. Unfortunately, that's what the instructions call out for here. In step 4, you would just load up a bunch of stuff, and then all the way at step 10, then they'd ask you to do all the delicate work of sanding and filling and, you know, these sort of tight squeezes. So that's where we're at right now. And I just kind of wanted to go into a little bit how I kind of deal with some of these fit issues. The fit issues on this kit are not, they're rather typical in terms of armor, at least, you know, Dragon kits that come from the 90s. So we're gonna kind of go through the process here. I'm gonna need to put this rear bulkhead on, as well as the top. And what I'm hoping to do is create the look of the actual vehicle. I'll go ahead and post a picture up here just to show you what it looks like, but what we'll see are no seams along the edge, and, you know, rather clean, I must be careful here, rather clean right angles. Okay, so the way I deal with this is I'm going to take some pieces of tape that I've prepared here and just start placing them on the vehicle so that I can kind of see, I can kind of assume everything's glued together, and then I can see where the problem areas are going to be. We call this, oh gosh, I forget what's called, dry fitting? Dry fit? Before we actually glue everything on. Okay. Alright. And then this rear section here. Gonna go like this, and then tape it up. And this is just going to allow us to kind of see how the seams look. Okay, so right off the bat, you know, pretty egregious up front here. Gonna have to bring this down, fill this section in, fill along here, probably bring some of that down, and then the seam along the edges isn't too bad. Right about here, where we have some like weld beads, there's gonna be some issues. So we'll go across, same thing on the other side. Just, you know, it's really just a matter of just kind of pressing, using liquid cement, and pressing it and allowing the liquid cement to ooze out. What I'm concerned about is looking at this back section. So, as you can see, these all need to be flush, and they're not flush at the moment. So the question is, do I bring this section towards the top and then work the material down, or do I bring the section from the top downward and then work the material down on this side? Again, I'm trying to get everything to be nice and flush. Looking at the photos here, you can see there should not be any sort of seam work along here. What I'm concerned about is if I were to take a sanding stick to this area, it would wear down some of these circular detail sections here. If I work it down on this side, there's not much detail that's being removed. So I'm going to need to glue this section and make it as flush as I can without sanding anything down, and then sacrifice all of this section and start to make this work. I'm going to have to do all my work down here. That's kind of ideal anyway, because, you know, if I have to do a lot of reshaping here and I run into problems, it's going to be pretty obvious. If I have some problems down here in the lower section, obviously a model static like this, we're not going to really necessarily see it. So, alright, so that's where I'm at. What I want to do, rather than just glue everything together and then work it down, is I actually want to glue this piece to this piece before I do any other work. So let's go through that. I recommend dry fitting whenever possible. I think what I really like about it is when we just set two pieces together and glue and there's no forcing that has to happen, that's the most ideal situation. Dry fitting like this with tape kind of shows you how much seam work you're going to have to do given that you didn't force anything in. The understanding, of course, is that you can force things. You can, sit here and use a lot of thumb pressure while things are drying, okay? But I like to prevent that as much as possible. I basically just want the model to not have any sort of pressure at any points. If there's any pressure around the vehicle, then I might be working on it at a later point, and eventually the pressure was just too much and it snaps. And that can be a real issue. So I like to just get it as clean as possible without having to force anything. And that's what dry fitting allows me to do. Alright, so what we're going to do now, take that aside, and we're going to get this so that there is no seam work and I don't have to sand anything down or file anything down. Alright. So the idea is that I'm bringing this down as far down as possible. Because there should not even be a lip. There should be no lip here. I just don't want to have any issue. Alright. Now, one place I am seeing a problem, again comparing with the picture, is along here, there's a section. This is actually pretty flush, but if it's flush on that one side, it sticks out on the other side. If I move it and it's flush on that side, it sticks out on the other side. So we're having some measurement issues. There really isn't a way to solve for that. So I think what I'm going to do is try to get it as center as possible, so I only have to work down a little bit on each side. And of course I do want to have this as center as possible because eventually this needs to go on top of everything here. So it is a little bit tricky kind of doing this one step all by itself. Alright, so right about there. And the way I'm looking, what I'm looking at to gauge if it's center is really right out here on the ends. How much is sticking out here? It should be just a little bit sticking out there and just a little bit sticking out here. Alright. So, the other thing that could be causing problems is a lot of times to allow pieces to fit well, they'll create this ridge. Alright, and this allows you to sort of set it there like a shelf. Well, I don't actually want to use that because that is causing me fit problems. That's not allowing it to be flush the way it should be. So, I'm also noticing another thing here too. You can see there's some extra flash along here, and I wonder if I remove that, if that helps the fit at all. So let's go ahead and just kind of work down some of that flash. Okay. Let's try it again. Yeah, I think it helped a little bit. Let's do this. We'll start gluing it. I'm going to do a little bit at a time. I'm not just going to just drag it across the entire seam. I want to have a little bit of wiggle room so I can adjust it as I go. The other thing too is I want to make sure that I'm not squishing this part. I want to make sure it's just laying nice and flat. All right. Okay, so the plan is to fill the seam, fill this seam. I might need to fill a little bit along here, but otherwise it's not too horrendous. Okay, then I very carefully want to start shaving away some of this here, all the way up to where that circle starts. And then I'll sort of blend it with some putty, or I'll probably use perfect plastic putty. Let's see if I have some nearby. There we go. This stuff, it's water soluble. So all I need to do is put it on a place, maybe let it sit for a little while, take a Q-tip or a slightly dampened brush, dampened with water, and just wipe it away. And it leaves the putty in the area and removes it all from the top surface. So this stuff is really great if I don't want to do a lot of sanding. All right, again, it's gonna be a little bit of work. So this is gonna have to come down. These will have to come down. That's not too bad. Just a little filling, I think, and a little bit of sanding. And this one's not too bad either, but then this edge protruding again. So the edges should be protruding just a little bit. Again, as center as I can get it. I think right now, if I'm going to work on the edges, so I'm going to make sure these seams are nice and the other side seams are nice. And that's going to be my focus for now. So let's go ahead, and then I'll just probably let it dry and then come back at the rest of it. All right, here we go. Okay, we're going to end the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks again for watching. Bye.